right, this is perfect because this is what we didn't get to last week, which was 2024 election. So here we go. Everyone should feel super comforted that democracy prevails. 70% of the people do not want Joe Biden to run for president.
Like, there is no clear example of the Democratic Party not being democratic than them just going, we don't give a shit. We don't.
And this has been week after week after week, because the first time we saw a poll like this, we showed the clip of somebody asking him about it. And remember, this was like 4 or 5 weeks ago. And he goes, yeah, I'm going to run. Just watch me. You'll see.
Yeah. What do you say to the people that don't want you to run? We'll see.
We'll see. It's either me or Trump or anyone but Trump.
So how's he doing?
Well, his approval rating is at a 36%, which is the lowest for any U.S. president at this point in their first term in 80 years.
And
excellent.
He's, what is he, 82?
80. Yeah, I think he might even be 81. But, you know.
So we can start you in Biden's lifetime.
Yeah, in his whole lifetime. That's comforting. Here's also comforting. I don't know. I'm sure everybody remembers all of the armchair psychologists who were diagnosing Trump. And I mean, I happen to agree with a lot of them, right? You know, he seems like truly narcissist and psychotic and yeah. But that said, does Biden or Trump have the mental sharpness to serve? 63% say Biden does not have the mental sharpness, and only 54% say Donald Trump doesn't. And I mean, Donald Trump is a vile, disgusting person, but I don't think that his mental state has changed that much in the last 40 years. It's not like he's always been violent.
Right. I mean, I don't see any signs of age being a factor in Trump.
Yeah. Not as much, at least. Not even close. Yeah.
He's been a pig his whole life. He's right.
I mean, so is Biden. I mean, that's the thing that's like, what a horrible state of affairs, right? All right, what else do we have? Those independents that we all that we're always going after. Oh no, this is different. This isn't the independents. This is how Biden will fare against Trump. He will lose by 7, or against DeSantis. He will also lose by 7.
And I think it's important to note that this is before a lot of things have been flushed out about Biden by Trump and by the right.
Oh, yeah.
So this is assuming that people a year from now are still buying the narrative that Ukraine is a worthwhile investment of all the money that's not going to our own people.
1.2 billion just pledged again today.
I mean, Biden won the first time on such a narrow margin that scratch COVID, because people thought he would be better on COVID, you know, scratch Ukraine war, because that's going to be in the shitter by the time the election rolls around.
Yep.
All his broken promises to people that got people enthusiastic on the left. You know, the one thing they have going for him is abortion, but look at abortion was overruled. You know, Roe versus Wade was overturned on his watch, and he's chosen to do nothing about it.
Nothing. When we had the House and the Senate, did nothing. Said that he was going to codify it in the first 100 days. Didn't do it. Would not work to overrule the filibuster. Same thing happened with Obama. And, you know, we were going to pull a clip from it, but it was all just audio. So it was sort of a boring visual. But Ryan Grimm just interviewed on the Intercept whatever. What is his name? Dimitri Melbourne, who is in cahoots with lots of bigwig billionaire Democratic operatives. And his whole goal is to just crush the left. And when Ryan asked him, like, well, you know, like basically he was saying the Dobbs decision was the best thing that could have happened, and Democrats should absolutely not codify Roe, because then they don't have anything to run on, and now they do. I mean, he just flat out said Democrats should never do anything that people are desperate for, who they are electing them for. Keep that out there as the threat. And that's the only way that he wants to win. And then when he was asked, and what about the left? Because that's basically what he spent all of his money on, and all, he's like crushing, like propping up the Chantel Browns and,
Right.
destroying Nina Turner's candidacy. And he's like, yeah, no, we don't need to spend money on that anymore. We have successfully squashed the progressive left in the Democratic Party.
And he's not wrong as far as that goes. I mean,
Yep.
but you have to understand, and obviously you understand, but that only works because they don't care about winning elections. If your real goal was winning elections, you wouldn't be able to squash the left because you'd have to appeal to the left to beat the right.
Right.
Because it's sure Democrats could win because of abortion and the fascist right. That's
Right.
always a possibility. It may happen. But the way you guarantee a win is go left.
Right.
Flat out. Because that's where the polls all lie. People
Yep.
support leftist policy.
Which is why they pretend that they do too, right? Like when they're running, when Obama runs, he runs as if he's a progressive. When even Biden, when he ran a little bit, he was like, I'm going to bring Bernie in, even though he said I beat the socialists. But there was all this stuff about how he was an FDR Democrat because they know that that's
Right.
popular. Even Chantel Brown pretended that she was for Medicare for all, right? They know those are popular. But you're right, because their business model is not predicated on winning. It's predicated on how to fundraise.
And I mean, even the progressives that we got are so neutered that there's no one's like, hey, we just need a couple more AOCs. I mean, no leftist really says that.
No,
we need a couple more Ro Khannas. I mean, what Silicon Valley guys, I mean, so there's no one, and none of these people are challenging him at all. So there isn't, our centrist friends don't see any reason to challenge them because they're not hearing a single voice other than us. No one in politics is challenging Biden from the left at all.
Not at all.
They're challenging vague, abstract ideas like we should have Medicare for all, but that doesn't, nobody connects the dot to our current guy who can put policy in place needs to change because his policies are bad. Nobody's saying on
it's
the
just
left,
virtue
Biden's
signaling.
policies are bad.
Yeah, no, it's all virtue signaling and then pretending that the leader of the free world is completely powerless to do anything about it. So at this point we have Biden is, I think, the least press available president in, I don't even know how many because I can't read that small stuff, but Biden is slammed for holding the fewest number of press conferences since Ronald Reagan and gave just 54 interviews in his first 2 years of office compared to Trump's 202 and Obama's 275. So instead of being available to the, go ahead.
Well, it says in the bottom there, the White House admits that this is that this is all part of a deliberate strategy.
Yeah.
That's not rocket science, but why would you admit that? Like this is fascism when you don't get to speak to your leader. You don't get to question your leader.
Yeah.
And it's not winning voters over. I mean, you look, who decides elections? Oops, wrong one. Who decides elections? Independents. Independents and voter enthusiasm. So he's lost voter enthusiasm because he hasn't delivered any of his promises. So voters are not going to be enthusiastic. They may be enthusiastic to vote against the right because of abortion, right?
Right.
But then they look at what he did on abortion and he did nothing. So that's, even if you're getting a little bump out of that, you're getting a small bump compared to if he fought and lost, but he didn't even fight.
Yeah.
So anyway, independents are the other group that you need to win an election. And they think 17% want to nominate Biden. They are the biggest group against Biden.
77% don't want Biden. That's 50% of the electorate, and 77% of them won't vote, or say they won't vote for Biden. Don't want him. Yeah. Yeah. And a huge number, obviously, of voters want to watch a debate because that is how you have a democracy, is you hear the ideas, you stand on your record, right? Like, as you said, how humiliating that the strategy once again is to hide their candidate. He is the, again, leader of the free world. Why can't he proudly defend his record? I mean, I know we all know why, but like this is not the way a real democracy works. And, we were going to show the clip, but it was so long and I'm sure everybody's seen it, but with Joyanne Reid having Simone Sanders on, and just announcing that, nope, there's no debate. The DNC has a candidate. It's the president of the United States. He's the leader of the Democratic Party, and that's it. And she thinks that talking to her small MSNBC crowd is going to satisfy the public on this like incredibly important matter.
And it's just gaslighting, because they're throwing away what's been known in politics forever, which is you want a primary to strengthen your candidate. A primary, even if he faced all these leftists.
Yep.
He can come out of that and go, look, your leftist policies weren't as popular as me with my strong centrist ideas, so I won. And then all the issues that were brought up by the leftists he's already won the argument. So the perception is when you go out of your primary, you are stronger than you entered, even if you're Joe Biden.
Right.
Because now for the first time, he's going to get these attacks from Trump, and it's going to look like Trump delivered it. Trump got the knockout blow on Biden, not Bernie Sanders said this thing about Biden.
Right.
Well, then they go, Bernie's a crazy leftist, so it doesn't matter. But when Trump does it, Trump is right. Well, Trump's right on that. Well, he's right on that. I hadn't thought of that. He's right on that too.
Yeah, it's going to be ugly. I mean, and the idea, again, I mean, we all know why they're hiding him. He can barely put a sentence together. You know, there's a part of me has a fantasy that he'll bring COVID back right before it really gets serious, so that he can make everybody go into hiding again. And that's why he can't do campaign rallies and stuff.
God.
Yeah. But also Trump has said that he is unlikely to debate because he is already, I think, he's got like double the amount of support that his next close rival does, DeSantis. And so there was this, so here's Trump saying that he's not going to debate. Why should he? He's already, taken the lead. Chris Christie was on Hugh Hewitt, and here's what he says. And it's really fascinating that that a Republican possible primary candidate is going to say this about Trump, and nobody is saying this on the titular left about Biden. This is about letting the American people decide who's best prepared to be president. This is not running for student body president. And if he really cares about the country, and I have deep questions about that, but if he really cares about the country, he's going to get up there and he shouldn't be afraid. I'm sorry to see that Donald Trump feels like if he gets on the stage, he's at risk of losing his lead. If in fact his ideas are so great, if his leadership is so outstanding, then his lead will only increase if he gets on the stage, not decrease. But obviously he's afraid. He's afraid to get on the stage against people who are serious. And I'm sorry to see that he's afraid of it. If he's that afraid of that, how can we count on him to do any better with President Xi than the failures he had in his first term with China? How can we expect him to do any better with Putin than having set the groundwork for the invasion of Ukraine, which his conduct towards Putin certainly helped to establish? This is a guy who seems like he's afraid. And if he's afraid, he has no business being president. And I never thought I'd be quoting Chris Christie, but here we are.
Yeah. So I mean, that whole piece is like calculated. That wasn't just an off the cuff response. He said afraid like 20 times in that. And this is where I land on it. I do think it still will be anybody but Trump at the end. I know that's an outlier position, but he's got a lot of things against him. For the first time, he's going to actually get some establishment animosity, as foreshadowed here by Christie.
Right.
He just was found how many million? 4.5 million?
5 million. Yeah.
For sexually harassing someone. Now he's going to shrug that off. It's the same thing he always does with all this stuff. Witch hunt. But he's got several ongoing cases. I'm not saying they're going to turn against him and he's going to lose those cases. I'm not saying that's going to cause all his support to drop, but he was already proven to be an extreme liability in the midterms to the Republican Party.
Yeah.
So the idea that he's going to skate through this unchallenged without a debate, I just don't see it happening. He's going to have debates. What comes of that? Who knows? I mean, he could tell a joke about DeSantis that just wins in the election. That's new nickname, wins the election for him.
Yeah. Listen, we'll see how it plays out. I still cannot wait to watch you wear a MAGA hat or something.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. Eat a Trump steak.
I would do that.
It has to be well done though. Part of the problem is that, he's always dismissed as being stupid. And I mean, on some level, I think he is, but he has a certain charisma and charm for the people who support him. He knows to say things like, don't cut entitlements. We should be out of this war, make himself sound like he's some kind of peace, activist. Talks about how, we should leave abortion rights alone, that's not a winning issue, even though he's the guy who put 3 people on the Supreme Court who, all lined up to reverse that decision. But I don't know. I think he has, I just think he shouldn't be so easily dismissed. I mean, I know you do.
The reason he will always have a chance is he can always tap in and connect with some fake populism.
Right.
That's his whole thing. So
yeah,
the big openings are all the failures of the current administration. He can say, look, I would not have gone into Ukraine. We need to get out of there immediately. You elect me. We're going to leave Ukraine.
Yeah.
He can do a million of these things. That's why you need a strong person on the left, not Joe Biden. But
I know.
That's where we are.
Yeah.
Anyway, Biden, they're pushing a lot of propaganda to make us believe it's okay that Biden is decrepit, mentally shot, sunsetting.
Because Democrats don't need to be especially good because the Republicans are cruelly and chaotically worse. And I mean, I do think that that whole Pied Piper strategy, it's what they've been doing for decades now, right? It's always the most important decision. It's always not time to fight for things. We can do that after we've beaten fascism. Should I bring back a little reminder from 2020 that's going to make everybody, claw your ears and eyes out? Just a reminder, this is what we were told in 2020.
Listen, kiddo, I get it. I don't like the two-party system. I think our country's corrupt. And quite frankly, I don't want to vote for Biden. It feels like voting for a Republican. But I'm gonna do it. You want to know why? Because the alternative is a fucking fascist. A fascist is a fascist. Maybe we can have the conversation about dismantling the two-party system when a fascist isn't running. Maybe we can do that later, kiddo. Champ. Chief. Maybe we can talk about it later.
And somehow
the world's going on.
I know, we're just pushing all the buttons. Somehow we never get to that conversation. Ever. It's always the most important election of our lifetimes. It's never time to talk about real policies. We always just need to beat the fascist, and then we can push him left. And then it's about to be midterms, so you can't talk about it because he's only been here, not even been here 100 days. Give him some time. Oh, now it's almost the midterms. Now we're into the general.
Well, I think what's interesting is a lot of people, even our centrist friends, are in on, they now recognize that the Democratic Party is kind of full of shit, but they still don't see a solution, and there still isn't one. I mean, let's be honest, there isn't one. The third parties have been so excluded from having a shot that the only way you have a shot with the third party is if you have some, a Bernie-like figure when he had Bernie-like support getting in there. And, there's no chance within the party. I mean, we could show some of the candidates we got. I mean, you got Marianne and RFK Jr., who won't even be in the debates. So there won't be debates. Nobody's going to hear their, my centrist family, they're not going to hear what Marianne has to say or RFK has to say.
It's amazing. And I know neither one of us is on board for either one of those candidates, but listening to Marianne Williamson's speech from a couple weeks ago, and she's enormously popular on TikTok with young people because, in her words, she does say a lot of the Bernie stuff. I mean, she doesn't have the same 40-year history of fighting for those policies because she hasn't been in elected office. And she maybe hasn't even always believed in all of those. I mean, I think in 2020, she wasn't wholly in for Medicare for all, but now she is. And, I have enjoyed.
She didn't know what it was in 20.
Right.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
She didn't know what it was and was against it.
Yeah.
And then on air sort of changed her mind. Well, asked about it. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. So she's not going to have the same backing that Bernie was able to accrue. And even they easily got rid of overnight after a year of fundraising and rallies, after 4 years of building up from 2016 to 2020, and they just squashed him in a night after winning people are always like, well, he won the biggest state in the country, the most diverse state in the country, the fourth largest economy in the world, 50 of 58 counties. So they kept talking about South Carolina, but Bernie did that, and they just pretended it didn't happen. And he wasn't popular with minorities or marginalized communities or whatever, which was a lie. So yeah, she has, unfortunately, I think no shot. I would vote for her over Biden for sure. And then RFK Jr., it's interesting. I think he's going to be more of a problem for them than they are aware of, because he has a lot of crossover appeal, his name recognition. And for the people who are tired of Biden and Democrats, he just hired Dennis Kucinich to be, I think, his chief of staff or campaign manager. He's checking off some boxes.
Yeah.
They're going to be
So look,
people. Yeah.
I'm going to separate his possible appeal because I don't want him to win. I don't think he's. Yeah. I would rather have Biden, to be honest, than RFK another time. And I'll tell you why. Because Biden had to pretend he was fighting COVID and it was real, and get vaccines in people's arms and try to do something. Where RFK Jr. is chief anti-vax nut job.
Yeah.
So, we're still in a pandemic. We're not getting out of this pandemic anytime soon. And we're going to get into COVID stuff, but to have the main guy in charge be the guy who's like anti-vaccine, when you could be anti the vaccine we got, fine. But ultimately, we're going to need the next level vaccine, and the next level vaccine is going to be what helps save a lot of fucking lives. And this guy is going to be against it. He's already against it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you'll never get the testing that he's going to require for a vaccine to be proven safe, because he's just his metrics are nonsense.
Right. I mean, listen, I don't want either one of them. I don't know who would be worse, honestly. I mean, we've seen 800,000 people die on Biden's watch. So I hear what you're saying. I really do. I mean, this just feels like such a sad discussion of whom I hate more. But
and just yesterday, he's knocking the CIA. He's propping up the CIA. Oh, most of them are good people over at the CIA. That's going to appeal to a lot of leftists.
Yeah, I don't know that he's going to appeal to a lot of leftists. I mean, I think he'll appeal to some of the MAGA communist people. He'll get the centrists. He'll get the people that think the jab is causing all the problems.
Right. But so what does that do? I mean, does that, if he gets into debates with Biden and is more anti-science than Biden.
But he also is really good on climate. He's been a lawyer fighting against, corporate malfeasance with the climate. And he talks a good game on anti-corruption. I mean, of course, then he says he's pro-CIA, but whatever.
But the right hates him on the climate. So that's not an appealing feature. Yeah. They're like, oh, I loved you until I learned your views on the climate, which they don't even know now. All they know is they're clinging to the anti-vax stuff.
Yeah. We're fucked.
Sorry.
We are fucked. I do think there's going to be a little bit of levity if you can stomach it, because I mean, it is only all of our futures and our children's futures and the future generations. But this is a little glimpse of how Trump is going to deal with Biden when they do get onto that debate stage.
Do you think at least one time he'd get up and say, I'm running for president? Where am I going? Where the hell am I going? I want to get out. Oh, no, over there. A prepackaged video that took supposedly 7 takes to get it right, if right is what you want to call it. In it, he says he's running because Trump and MAGA pose a threat to democracy. Can you believe it?
What is Biden possibly going to do? I mean, the only thing I think that could happen is that Trump will look like a bully. But, I don't think people care because they want a strong leader, and Biden's just going to look weak.
And well, exactly, because nothing Trump being a bully isn't going to shock anyone.
Right.
And his supporters are going to want that.
Yep.
They're going to want him to own Biden in the
Right.
debates, So they're going to shoot Biden up with all these things to make him, like they did in debates, to make him as lucid as possible for 2 hours or an hour and a half, and hope it works. But he's going to get clowned and embarrassed, and he will have no experience debating because he's not.
Right. He hasn't been prepared. Right.
So he's going to
happen? Are they going to cancel the debates entirely? They're just not even going to have an election. Let's be like, and by the order of the parliamentarian, Biden is our next president. And Pete Buttigieg and Kamala. All right. What else do we have on 2024?
I think we could probably leave it. I mean, it's is there something you want to talk about in 2024?
I mean, I just do think I'm looking through some of our stuff. I mean, we all sort of know all the stuff. I do, it's interesting to me that the UAW has held off on endorsing the most pro-union president of our lifetime, right? And then the other thing, and this came up a lot with all the disingenuous, criticisms that were being lobbed at me by the NAFO trolls or whoever the hell, the K-Hive. Well, clearly you don't care about gay rights or abortion, and that's why you think that Biden is bad. And you're basically, if you're not voting for Biden, it's a vote for Trump. And I was like, I'm not voting for Trump. Can you count that as a vote for Biden? Whatever. None of that works. The thing when they talk about fascism, I think is true. I do think that we have an emerging fascism in this country, and it's happening really rapidly. If you truly believe that, watching Biden and Democrats give even more money to cops, hire even more cops than Trump and the Republicans, should give away the whole game. Because if you're afraid of the fascists on the other side, and that they just won back the House, and there's a chance, because it happens all the time, that they'll win back the Senate, they could win the presidency. Why are you giving money to the cops who are going to kill you for protesting and arrest you for, anytime you speak up, and enforce the very policies that you're saying are fascist?
Yeah, absolutely. And if the right is this fascist threat, then you don't force feed somebody that 70% of the public doesn't want to run, that 70% or so think is not mentally fit. If it's a real threat on the right, literally any other Democrat, even the ones I hate, would do better against him, because they don't have Biden's record. They don't have his mental acuity gap, or whatever you want to call it. They'll do better. Anyone.
Yep.
And that's not, it's not me just saying that because I don't like Biden. I mean, poll after poll has always shown this.
Yeah. The one thing that Biden has going, the problem is everybody else is even more underwater than Biden is in terms of popularity. And like when they do the Democratic primary possibility of polls, Biden still, sweeps everybody under the rug. And he has the one thing that matters to them, that he beat Trump. And so that's all, that whole electability case is all they had going for them going into 2020. Yeah. And now it's all they have going for them going against Trump or whoever in 2024. So, I totally agree with you. As much as I can't stand Gavin Newsom, I could see him up there with Trump.
I hate him, but he would easily beat Trump. Easily.
I kind of think
you don't fight fascism with fascism, and stifling debates is fascist.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, let's timeline cleanse and move on. Should I fuck it all? Let's just fuck it all.